Well, welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave. It is a nice steak Saturday over here in Helsinki, Finland. Nice and overcast as well, but we got plenty to talk about with the weekly closure coming in from CME from yesterday, and also a little bit of weekend fuckery going on right here for good old spot price action on Bitcoin as well. With that said, I would like to wish you the best and the happy, because why the hell not? It's free to do, and perhaps it might even help. So with that in mind, let's get into the Krown Chat application right now, which can be found at app.krown.net. And by the way, it's 100% free, and you can find a link description below. You can even get this free newsletter as well, which is right there available for you whenever you so desire. Anyways, with that said, do we see anything new here that has not been present over the last 2 to 3 days now since we got into this range in the mid $40,000 territory? Actually, no, not necessarily. We do see Bitcoin dominance still hovering around about 41.25%, and we do see that fear and greed index is right around 46, actually ticking up 1 point from yesterday to today, as Bitcoin does close the week obviously down for CME. Anyways, with that said, any major massive winners on the altcoin list today? Yes, indeed. We see some of these altcoins just going to fucking the moon and beyond, actually. Quant, Terra, I believe that's Luna, actually. Yeah, so Quant, Luna, Elrond, Avalanche, Hedera, Herpgraph, Radium, Waves, Harmony, Cosmos, Tezos, all with some pretty decent grains right there. Even some double-digit winners over the last 24 hours here. So something weird is abound in this market, but into the market data tab we go, and let's see what we got going on over here, specifically with regards to Bitcoin. And again, big leverage washout that we did see coming in from that 7th of September massive downside move, about $10,000 down on the day, and closing, I believe, about $5,000-6,000 at the end of the day. Anyways, more importantly with that, we did see, or at least more importantly, we've seen these same sort of levels being hinted at pretty much around Bitcoin's per all-time high at the $65,000 region right here, and also at the $20,000 level, which was Bitcoin's prior all-time high in the 2020 saga before we turned into 2021, right? And of course, we did play out about a 20 to 30% pullback from that region as well. So this is something that I'll definitely be paying attention to going onwards and forwards here. It was hinting at a bit of a cautionary tale on the 7th, and now I would say that going onwards and forwards here, I'd really be paying a lot of attention to this, as it will be a good indication, it looks like, historically speaking, that the market is rather frothy. The problem is, though, is that we haven't been harvesting this data for too long, so we don't have so much history here, but at least we have this, and 3 times does make a trend, and that does make sense. Of course, open interest over here just taking an absolute massive dump-ola, and that is what is to be expected. Wash out all the over-leveraged traders, especially because, well, this market is. And with that in mind, we can all see that the global funding rate over here is more or less at parity as far as I'm concerned. Actually, not even at parity. No, it's actually even below 0.01% right now. It actually even hit -%, I believe 2 days ago, and yesterday was pretty much right around there as well. Anyways, big outflows from exchanges as well going on over here, and of course, you can see it on the ratio, or sorry, on this chart over here, where we actually are not just maintaining the overall downtrend, but continuation on the downtrend, two new lows on this one. Again, starting from the first time that we really started, harvesting this data back around actually about a year ago now. So with that in mind, I do put a lot of weight on this as well for the long term, and I do expect that Bitcoin probably, or this actually does bode well for Bitcoin long term, but does that come into fruition right now? Well, of course, I have been going over this potential bear trap situation that we could see Bitcoin initiate, but for right now is certainly very much far away, and not something that I put too much weight on, or it's not that I wouldn't put too much weight on. Of course, it has its weight. It's just it's not actionable, more importantly. So we can go over that a little bit today. I can also suggest that you watch the last video in the long-term analysis playlist, as that one's going to go on to it into detail. And then what I'll also do is I'll do an updated version tomorrow, assuming that things just don't completely shit the bed today. And then more importantly, I'll be adding a lot more to it. Again, this is going to be completely hinged upon the fact that Bitcoin can even, just trade above about $49,000 again. But with that in mind, there is a pretty nice setup if that does indeed happen. So with that in mind, let's go on over here. Let's talk about CME's closure for the weekly. And of course, it is a massive bearish engulfing dildo right there. Tested almost all the way down to the 21 exponential average. You can see this looks like the potential start of your confirmation of a downtrend on a weekly, actually on CME specifically. Of course, we do have a high, we do have a low, or sorry, we do have a low, we do have a high, we do have a lower low, we do have a potentially lower high right here. Now, for the more aggressive traders, they probably already look at that as playable, coming off of that bearish engulfing dildo right there. For the more conservative people, what are they waiting for? They're probably waiting for a closure below the 21 on this time frame as well, and that's going to be pretty much right down around where Bitcoin wicked off to during this week's dump-ola, down to about $43,000. With that in mind, let's go over here to the daily, see how CME closed out the week, and didn't really give us all that much. Now, going into to the lower term timeframes, I do think it is rather obvious that CME, or at least Bitcoin in general, wants to test back down around this blue box territory right here. Sorry, that should be a little bit higher. I did not do this improperly for this time frame. Should be right around here, actually between about low 44,000 bucks all the way down to about 43,600 or so. And would be looking for a bit of a wick down there, regardless of whether you're bullish or bearish, and very likely a bounce as well. And that's kind of what I made for myself. Anyways, with that said, we do have a bit of a new short-term range to be aware of to the upside as well here, and that would be right here where Bitcoin did get rejected from the from that first bounce attempt at about 47,200 or so. If Bitcoin can start to close 4-hour dildos back above here, I'd even say this area right here would be good enough for me. 47,100 is what I'm trying to say, would be good enough for me on a closure, or on a wick basis, I'd want to see above essentially the high of that bounce attempt on the 9th of September at 47,465. If one of those two things happens, I would be looking for Bitcoin to play out a greater bounce all the way up somewhere around, actually this is not going to be, well, this is relevant, but not for what I'm talking about right now. So let's just put that on the side. What we're going to do right now is we're going to do something like this. Yes, there we go. Then I would be looking for continuation somewhere between the 0.5 and the 618, which is actually around upper $48,000 territory, perhaps even all the way, or maybe even all the way up to about 50,000 bucks territory. Now, if I do take this on a wick basis, it will be pretty much exactly in line with that. And that's kind of where I'd be looking for. But remember, that is still just going to be a lower high by definition. And that's actually what I'd be waiting for myself if I do want to put on some major, long-term short positions. I want to see a lower high somewhere within this region right here after, after a bit of a fake out to the downside on the short term. Now, with that said, that actually does initiate the bear trap situation on the other side. If I do see any sort of a daily delta closure above 49,500 specifically, I will call a major bear trap, and I will be looking for, well, just all the targets that we had from before, all the way basically around the per hour time high. In that case as well, we could also use a shorter term time frame, like a 4-hour right here, but I would raise that target up to 50,400 in order to really define that. Until that happens though, this is all just lower high territory right here. But for right now, we actually don't have that on a 12-hour or a daily just yet. This is just continuation. It's kind of a nothing right there. I think it's a lot more obvious when you put it on a line chart. And just, as an aside, like, if you have a low and a high literally in the same area, it's probably not either. It's probably not either is what it is. And this is a nothing right here. This is a Jesus toast as far as I care. But let's go back on to the good old dildos right there. Beautiful, lovely, amazing. And in the short-term time frames, what do we see as far as momentum oscillators go? We did close with multiple drives of hidden bearish divergence on 4-hour RSI back to the bearish control zone. We did also see that this consolidation is very, 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 very mature right here. We've actually come all the way down to about 0 percentile, or just basically under 1 percentile right there, which is low enough anyways. And expansion from this, as Bitcoin essentially hangs on to the lows plus momentum oscillators, and on the 4-hour, yes, we do have a downtrend obviously, then yes, I would be favoring another swipe of the downside, or you might even call it a sweep of the lows, as people like to say nowadays. But what I'm essentially looking for is probably wick down somewhere right around here, very likely a bounce from there, and then we get to find out if Bitcoin is going to play off that trap or not. That trap again would only be viable above about 49,500 on a daily. And short term, you'll it's not even really a top of conversation as long as you're below, especially the 236 retracement right here, which is also essentially in line with that $47,100 high right here as well. Anyways, with that said, let's go over here and check out spot price action right now for a Bitcoin and see if there's anything of particular interest, of particular note. And yeah, I mean, we basically got the same areas right here. I basically have the blue box territory between about 44,000 bucks and about 44.5 or so, of which Bitcoin's bouncing off, or it looks like it's going to attempt to bounce off once again. But what do we have going on as far as BBWP goes? Our volatility-based indicator, it is starting to expand, and we do see that 4-hour RSI. You could argue that we've mostly played out that hidden bearish divergence already. If it is going to have one more drive down, I would be looking for that $44,000 target, and very likely a bounce there. And if you do see that over the weekend, those moves, for what it's worth, are typically short-term trappy is what we do see. It would be a lot more obvious if this was going to turn out to be bearish to me, at least in my opinion, if Bitcoin did rally up on Saturday, being today. I'm recording this on Saturday morning, just by the way, and Steak Saturday. Anyways, it'd be a lot more obvious if we did get actually the pump and lower high on a Saturday rather than a drop down first. But for getting actually bearish, and for the other side, I suppose a little bit vice versa. But still, the areas for kind of maintaining these biases, at least in my own trading plan, is pretty much the same, and we have essentially the same setup here anyway. So if you are looking at the short-term timeframes, 4-hour delta closure back above about you could even just say 47,000 bucks would probably be good enough for me, or just a higher high above 9th of September right there, a little bit more aggressive aggressive, but that is 47,381. And then yes, I would be looking for a move somewhere between about 48.5 to 49.5 perhaps. And could that play and bleed into, you know, the bear trap situation that I've been speaking about? Potentially yes, but I would strongly suggest before blindly even, you know, discussing that or even entertaining that possibility, definitely watch the video that I put out like earlier this week, because it's going to go into that in much more detail. And like I said, tomorrow I'll update it with a few more things as well. But I really want to see what happens this next day, just to like make sure that it's actually even, you know, fucking relevant, right? Anyways, with that said, let's go over here and check out momentum oscillators for what they're worth. And let's actually go to spot price action, of course, for Bitcoin. Weekly is starting to get a little bit more concerning right here, as you can see. While I wouldn't necessarily be looking for weekly Stokes to cross the downside like this week, for example, it is starting to crawl up closer and closer to current price action, now at about 39,750, and that will obviously rise up, you know, a significant amount as well after Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, as we've seen it crawl about a couple $1,000 each and every week. Anyways, with that said, let's go into the lower term time frames now and see what we got going on over here on the 4 hour. And could we make any decisions, or could I look at this as relevant at all, as we would see 4 hour Stokes pop up with any sort of a closure above 46,100? Yeah, I suppose. I mean, is that going to be in line with anything else? Probably for like a short-term time frame, like an hourly right here. Yeah, would actually reverse the short-term time frame trend on the hourly specifically. You know, so I would probably be looking for extension up to almost 47,000 bucks, and then that can bleed on into the 4 hour, obviously. But looking at the hourly right here, hourly Stokes about to turn down as long as we close below 45,000 bucks, which is going to be confirmed in about 8 minutes. So we might even see this one on video. Sorry, 7 minutes to the dot. There we go. And of course, this one does stay within its overall downtrend as long as we're below about 45,700 or so. Buy hourly is going to be showing what is going to be down as long as below 44,700. So actually that will be twisting up. And is that one confirming as well? Yes, it is actually. Hey, there's a little bit of hopium. What about a 3 hour buy hourly hopium? All fucking in, baby. 3 hour right here, 44,950. And we've already looked at the 4 hour. I'm curious what the 12 hour and daily say. And these are inching their way lower and lower as well. But still, for the 12 hour, 46,150 is the magical number right there. And the daily is not even worth talking about. Not even worth fucking talking about. So if I did have call it right now, short-term time frames, I imagine do probably have one more swipe at the lows at the very least. I don't think that we're going to see a breakdown over the weekend, regardless whether you're bullish or bearish. I probably think that we see a bit of a bounce from there. And if I want to get bearish, I just want to see a bounce back up anywhere between about 48 to 50,000 bucks. And a lower high confirmed somewhere within there. And if I do want to call a bear trap, then I want to see a daily closure again above 49.5 specifically. Could you maybe use 49,000 bucks even? Perhaps yes. Again, more aggressive people will use that. I don't know if I would subscribe to that current belief right now myself, however. Anyways, is there anything else I want to be checking out right here? This video is already 12 minutes long, a pretty damn simple video for today. I mean, we should probably talk about, you know, what would happen if Bitcoin actually does break down below here. Again, I don't think this actually happens today, even though it's, you know, looks like it very easily tested. But if we do start to see a 4 hour closure below 44,000 bucks, at that point, I would be looking for Bitcoin to come all the way down to, well, probably about 42.5 or so before the next sort of legitimate bounce. But for what it's worth, I actually do not think, you know, even if you're going to be the biggest bear of all time right now, I don't believe that Bitcoin, or at least I wouldn't be looking at this and thinking to myself that Bitcoin, again, assuming that Bitcoin actually does turn out bearish and does turn to the downside, which I'm actually kind of leaning against towards right now. I actually do think that the bear trap situation has a legitimate possibility to play out, but I wouldn't be looking for a closure below about 43,000 bucks, or if you want to be super exact, about 42,500 this month, that is. If it's going to play out, probably going to be October, if I had to guess. Speaking of, though, and something that is rather concerning to myself is, for the first time in a while, we do see that traditional markets are starting to show a lot of cracks, not necessarily on the monthly, but certainly on the weekly. We do have a clear and obvious local high on weekly for SPY, and more importantly, NASDAQ, which has been the market leader, closes a bit of a tweezer top right there as well. And I would be looking for a bit of a short-term corrective phase. Could this bleed on in over to what I've been speaking about for the last few months here, that I am expecting a 15 to 20% correction, you know, late this year, sometime between October to maybe even December. I think this very well could be it, actually. I mean, we do hear the talk about tapers and everything going on, right? And you know, until they actually do happen, we don't really know what the fuck's gonna, you know, what they're actually gonna do, because they always like grandstand with the stuff, and no one wants to be the first person to do this, because everyone knows what's gonna fucking happen. Like, market's being propped up by some very interesting funny money right now, for what, you know, for what it's worth. And one of the most tried and true things for traditional markets, which is just so bizarrely simple, but it's been so fucking true, is that as long as that Fed balance sheet continues to expand, I'm not looking for any bear marks in traditional marks. I'll put it that way. And for right now, or at least it sounds like the ECB is not going to be doing that. So fair enough. But America keeps on talking about tapering, so that's going to put downwards pressure on price action as people kind of price in these things well before they actually go live. So as the year draw closer and closer to the end, I expect that we probably do see that takeover. Dow Jones is certainly the weakest of them all. Now I would be looking for bounces around this region, of course, but coming into next week, I would be looking for Monday down and then very likely bounce perhaps around Tuesday or something like that. And of course, is that going to put downwards pressure on crypto, on crypto in general? Well, it would be kind of hard for me to think that a risk on asset class is going to do well if traditional markets start to turn down. But, we've all seen crazier things, I do suppose. But something, worth considering perhaps, as that's kind of in free fall, And this one, probably does bounce relatively soon, but that is certainly a local top, and SPY certainly is a bit in a short term down as well, down about 4,400 or so. Anyways, should I do a video on Ethereum? Maybe I'll record Ethereum its own video a little bit later, give it its own dues, I suppose, and perhaps this would be a good time to be letting go of this one myself. Is there anything else that I'm missing right here as far as daily goes? Nope, daily's still doing more or less the same shit that we were speaking about before. And what about the 2-day? 2-day's kind of wrestling at 21 right now. Again, wouldn't mind another wick to somewhere down around the 55 on this time frame. Pretty much the same shit as we looked at on the lower term time frame. Same thing on 3-day. 5-day is not closing today, but closing tomorrow. And I do expect that is going to unveil and reveal a lot of things, that I'm going to be expecting for the week to come. If we start to close, especially below 44,000 bucks, that's going to look pretty fucking bad. If we start to close, back above about 47,000 bucks on a 5-day, that's going to start to look actually okay. Same thing on the weekly as well, right here. Actually, more like 47.5 or so, but close enough is close enough in that case. Anyways, for what it's worth right now, again, short-term time frame range, very, very obviously put right here. Basically, it's a little bit below 47,000 bucks if you want to be super exact, at 46,800 or so. Closure above there, and I'd be looking for Bitcoin to travel up all the way somewhere between about 48.5 to 40, maybe even as much as 50,000 bucks. Then it's focus on the daily closure, or if you want to be a little more aggressive, 12-hour, which I'd use 50,000 bucks to declare a bear trap. And trade to the upside with confidence right here. But until that happens, anything below 50,000 bucks especially is a lower high, or more importantly, 49,500 is kind of where I'm looking for right now. Anyways, with that said, I'm going to be signing off with that message. Hopefully this one serves you well. I'll be back on tomorrow, actually, like I said, with some long-term analysis. Got some new and fun and interesting things, hopefully. At least I think they're interesting to produce. And with that said, take care, and until next time.